You know how every January there's this just massive surge of collective motivation. Like you go out, you buy the expensive new planner.
Oh, yeah, the $80 letter ones.
Exactly. And you set the alarm for like 5 a.m. and you swear to yourself, this is the year I'm finally going to launch the business or write the book or just get in the best shape of my life.
And for those first 2 weeks, it really feels like you're strapped to a rocket ship. I mean, it's that intoxicating adrenaline of a fresh start.
Right. But then by mid-February, that rocket ship usually turns out to be just a treadmill because you realize you were running on sheer willpower.
Which is a highly finite resource. I mean, eventually willpower just runs out.
Yeah, and then the burnout sets in. The planner gathers dust, and you're back exactly where you started. So today we're taking a deep dive into entrepreneur Dan Martell's systems.
We really want to figure out how to stop relying on that willpower entirely, right?
Exactly. We're extracting the exact methodology he uses to turn these vague, exhausting ambitions into effortless, automated routines. And spoiler alert, it heavily involves AI.
Right, and the core of this entire approach, it really comes down to a single acronym Martell emphasizes, which is systems.
Systems. Okay, break that down for us.
Yeah, so it stands for save yourself time, energy, money, and stress. Because, I mean, think about it. Every single person basically has the same goals.
Right. Make more money, get healthier.
Exactly. We all want to improve our finances or our health. But the person who builds a system, they just have a mathematical advantage.
Because the system takes over the heavy lifting when your motivation evaporates.
Right. It's a repeatable process. You execute, look at the feedback, and improve. You aren't just like grinding harder. You're building an engine that actually grinds for you.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now, especially if you're, tired of setting these New Year's resolutions that just fizzle out? It means we need to stop obsessing over the goal itself.
And start engineering the machine that gets us there.
Right. But I mean, you can't engineer a machine if you don't know what it's supposed to manufacture.
You really can't hit a target you can't see. Martell frequently interviews these highly successful people, and he asks them, wave a magic wand and paint a picture of your life in 5 years.
And what happens?
Most of them just freeze. Because if you lack a clear vision of the future, you literally cannot make aligned, high-leverage decisions in the short term. Clarity is like the ultimate accelerator.
But getting that clarity, honestly, that's usually the hardest part. Just staring at a blank piece of paper trying to map out a 5-year trajectory. It's paralyzing.
Oh, completely.
So this is where the AI integration starts in the source material.
Yeah.
The transcript outlines this really cool 3-step prompt engineering method to just bypass that blank page paralysis entirely.
Yeah. Step 1 is all about flipping the dynamic of how we usually interact with ChatGPT.
Right. You don't ask it to write something for you. You ask it to interview you.
Which is such a brilliant constraint.
So you prompt it. You literally say, help me define a 5-year SMART goal. Ask me clarifying questions one at a time.
Yeah, and you are no longer trying to pull this perfect 5-year plan out of thin air. The LLM becomes this active extractor. It forces you to articulate these constraints and desires you might not have even consciously realized you had.
Which leads directly into the second step, which is the brain dump. And the source highly recommends doing this on the mobile app using the voice-to-text feature.
That is so important. When the AI asks you a clarifying question, do not try to formulate a polished essay.
No, you just hit the microphone and you ramble. You talk about your hopes, your frustrations, the tasks you despise. Let the neural network do the heavy lifting of sorting the signal from the noise.
You're basically treating the AI like a therapist or a sounding board, and then step 3 is the refinement phase.
Right, where you iterate on the summaries the AI feeds back to you. You go back and forth until the goal finally clicks.
And there's a very specific psychological benchmark for knowing when you've hit that right target.
I love this part. The 5-year goal is locked in when reading it. Makes you feel anxious, but excited.
Yeah, that dual feeling is a critical indicator. The excitement confirms the goal aligns with your intrinsic desires, right?
Right.
But the anxiety signals that the goal is large enough to actually require significant personal growth. It forces a physiological stretch.
The transcript uses Gary Vaynerchuk as a prime example of this mechanism in action, with his lifelong, very public goal to buy the New York Jets.
Yeah, I mean, he started broadcasting that intention in his 20s, back when it made absolutely zero sense to anyone looking at his trajectory.
But planting that massive, hyper-specific flag, it gave him an unshakable North Star. It acted as a filter for every business decision he made.
Right, like, is this action moving me closer to buying the Jets or further away? And furthermore, that level of extreme clarity, It enrolls other people into your mission.
It creates like a decentralized network of scouts.
Exactly. Because his audience knows exactly what he wants, they actively root for him and bring him opportunities that align with that goal.
So a written goal is a great filter, sure. But words on a page don't always resonate with our deeper cognitive wiring, you know. Our brains process the world visually.
If I describe a complex scenario to you, you don't see letters spelling out the words in your head.
No, you render an image in your mind's eye. Like a fat elephant on a red chair. You see the elephant.
Right, and that's why the methodology goes a step further, translating that text into a 4D vision board. This taps directly into the Reticular Activating System, or the RAS, in our brains.
Okay, remind us what the RAS is again.
It's a bundle of nerves at our brainstem that filters out unnecessary information so the important stuff actually gets through. It's a reason why when you buy a red car, suddenly you start seeing red cars everywhere on the highway.
Because your brain has tagged that visual as important.
Exactly. So by feeding your brain a vivid visual target of your 5-year goal, you program your RAS to act like a heat-seeking missile. It unconsciously scans your daily environment for resources to make that image a reality.
And to build that target, you take your refined 5-year goal and you prompt the AI to make it 4D. You ask it to describe the sight, the sound, the lighting, the colors, make it as vivid and photorealistic as possible.
And then you ask the AI to translate that 4D description into an image generation prompt.
Right, you take that prompt, drop it in Midjourney or Canva, and generate a custom vision board.
Yep.
And you make that your phone wallpaper.
Because the frequency of exposure is what programs the RAS.
There's this memorable anecdote in the deep dive about a creative director named Sam. For nearly 5 years, Sam kept a very specific high-resolution image of a white Porsche GT4 Cayman as his lock screen.
He saw it hundreds of times a day.
Hundreds of times. And eventually, his boss actually purchased that exact, fully insured white Porsche for him as a gift.
Just acknowledging his loyalty and impact. People love to write stories like that off as luck or, manifestation.
Oh, for sure.
But it's really about sustained, highly focused attention altering your trajectory.
Okay, let's unpack this, though. I want to explore a potential trap here.
Yeah.
What if someone listening is just paralyzed by perfectionism? They run the prompts, generate a beautiful image, and then freeze because they're terrified they've locked onto the wrong 5-year goal.
Like they're going to waste years chasing a mistake.
Exactly. They don't know what they want.
Well, the reality of long-term planning, according to the source, is that you do not have to be perfectly right at the starting line. You really only need a definitive direction.
So just pick something.
Yeah, if a path feels even slightly compelling, you start moving. Because the act of moving generates data, and you can always adjust your coordinates based on that new data later on.
But if you refuse to pick a direction out of fear, you just remain stationary. And the environment decides your future for you.
Exactly.
Okay, so a hyper-realistic vision board is a great anchor. But staring at a Porsche on your phone doesn't automatically put the keys in your hand, right?
Unfortunately not.
The gap between where you are today and a massive 5-year goal is vast. It's incredibly intimidating. How do we bridge that canyon without getting totally overwhelmed?
You need a granular roadmap. Martell operates on this principle that sequencing equals success.
Sequencing. Doing things in the right order.
Right. If you give 2 chefs the exact same high-quality ingredients, one might bake this intricate layered cake, and the other might end up with a collapsed pile of mush.
Because doing the right things in the wrong sequence guarantees failure.
Exactly. And this is where we leverage AI for deep milestone tracking, because an LLM can hold the entirety of a 5-year plan in its context window without suffering, cognitive overload.
Which we definitely suffer from.
Yeah.
So you prompt the AI to translate that massive vision into a year-by-year plan.
Right. It gives you specific, measurable milestones for each of the 5 years to calibrate your progress. But then you continuously drill down.
You take the current year and ask AI to break it down into quarters.
And then take those quarterly goals and distill them into 2 or 3 rocks. Yeah, the major high-leverage projects that actually drive the outcome. And you can get as granular as you want. Ask the AI to turn those rocks into monthly, weekly, and even daily tasks.
You can even instruct it to generate a spreadsheet import file, like a CSV, for your tracking tools.
Yeah, plug it right into Notion or Excel.
That drastically reduces the cognitive load. It reminds me of the Iron Man analogy from the transcript.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right, because when you're facing a massive triathlon, you survive the open water swim, you push through a 112-mile bike ride, and by the time you start the marathon, you are completely exhausted.
Right. And if you allow your brain to calculate that you still have 26 miles left to run, your nervous system will essentially stage a mutiny.
You just quit. So the trick elite athletes use is they stop conceptualizing the marathon. They just focus on running to the next telephone pole.
What's fascinating here is that AI is acting as a tool to mitigate human panic. It isn't just generating an arbitrary to-do list, it's taking an overwhelming ambition and scaling it down into these approachable, bite-sized calibration points.
AI basically provides your next telephone pole.
Exactly, so you don't have to look at the whole marathon.
Okay, so we have our telephone poles mapped out there in a beautiful Notion dashboard. But let's be real. Milestones living on a spreadsheet are incredibly easy to ignore when the chaos of a Tuesday morning hits.
Oh, absolutely. They just collect digital dust.
Right. So for a goal to become inevitable, it must live inside your day-to-day life as a standard.
And a standard is an automated behavior that makes the outcome of your goal inevitable. To establish that, you have to extract these AI milestones from the spreadsheet and sync them directly into your calendar.
The methods for this are wild. Feels like having an executive chief of staff.
It really does. The first phase is the audit,
where you give ChatGPT or Gemini access to your calendar. And if you don't have the API integration set up, you literally just take a screenshot of your chaotic weekly schedule, upload the image, and feed it your goals.
Right. And then you transition into the booking phase. You ask the AI to suggest 3 recurring time slots to consistently push those major rocks forward.
Those deep work blocks.
Exactly. And if you're using Gemini and Google Calendar, you can actually command it to book those blocks automatically for the entire next quarter.
That's incredible. But schedules change. So you implement the weekly maintenance check. At the start of every week, you ask AI to scan your calendar for clashes between your focus blocks and new meetings.
Yeah, and it identifies the clash and suggests the optimal alternative slot to reschedule your deep work. It manages the spatial logic of your schedule so you don't have to.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The transcript highlights this advanced dependency system. Because most goals require input from other people, right? Waiting on reports, updates from vendors.
Right, so you can use AI to monitor an inbox specifically for those dependencies.
So it monitors for reports from your team and automatically messages people on Mondays and Fridays if they miss their deadlines.
Okay, I have to push back here.
Granting an AI full autonomy to read my team's emails and automatically send out reprimands, that sounds like a massive trust issue, like a fast track to destroying company culture.
That is a very valid concern. But the execution here isn't about the AI acting as like a ruthless HR enforcer.
Okay, so how does it work?
It's about monitoring for the arrival of expected information. So if it's Friday afternoon and a specific document hasn't arrived, it just automatically drafts a gentle, friendly bump, like, hey, just checking in to see if you had a chance to attach that report.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, it operates as an administrative assistant handling follow-ups, not issuing warnings. The value is that you, the human, no longer have to hold the mental weight of remembering every single pending item.
That makes total sense. It's offloading that mental RAM.
Right.
And the source notes that those who use AI this way will get 10x the output, while those who don't will just be left behind.
Right.
But I do have a practical question. Is scheduling just 3 blocks a week really enough to change your life?
It absolutely is, because it creates that inevitability we talked about. Deep work requires prolonged concentration. 3 deeply focused, uninterrupted 2-hour blocks dedicated entirely to your highest leverage projects.
Yeah.
That will compound faster in a single month than an entire year of chaotic, reactive, busy work. The consistency of those small blocks builds the momentum.
So calendar blocks, AI prompts, these are fantastic external systems. But what happens when you travel or, your routine gets disrupted?
Well, external systems can break.
Right. So to truly lock in success, you have to move from external hacks to internal identity.
This is what Martell calls the upgrade loop.
The upgrade loop.
Because the real point of a goal isn't just achieving it, it's the person you become in pursuit of it. Wealthy and successful people think in decades, not days.
They're continuously upgrading their internal operating system. So the first step in this loop is identifying your patches.
Right, your external fixes.
Like relying on pounding energy drinks to survive the afternoon, or demanding a strict Pomodoro timer just to keep you from opening a new browser tab.
Those dependencies are symptoms of a deeper inefficiency. So the upgrade loop involves asking AI to find the root causes of the issue.
You prompt it, like, list possible root causes for my low energy in the afternoons.
And rather than suggesting a better timer app, The AI acts as a diagnostic tool. It might point to your macronutrition or suggest your dopamine baseline is spiked from phone usage.
Then you ask the AI to suggest habit replacements, like better sleep and nutrition instead of caffeine, or building physical endurance to exhaust the body and tame the mind instead of relying on a timer.
The goal is to replace the external tool with an internal standard. There's that classic example from the transcript about waking up early.
Yes. People see someone waking up at 4:00 or 5:00 a.m., and they assume it requires a staggering amount of daily willpower.
They view it as a painful hack. But if you've built the internal habit of going to bed at 9:00 p.m., waking up early isn't impressive discipline.
Right, it's just the natural byproduct of a full night's sleep. Eventually, the external patch, the blaring alarm clock, becomes completely unnecessary.
Because waking up early becomes an internal identity. The friction just disappears.
It's like training wheels on a bike. All these AI prompts, the inbox monitoring, the vision boards, they're the training wheels.
Exactly.
But the upgrade loop is when you finally take them off, because your identity has fundamentally changed. You don't need the productivity hacks to be a high achiever anymore. You just are one.
It's a total shift.
So let's briefly recap this journey for everyone listening. You gain 100% clarity with an AI-generated 5-year SMART goal and a 4D vision board.
Right. Then you break it down into those telephone pole milestones.
You sync those blocks directly into your daily calendar routines. And finally, you upgrade from short-term hacks to long-term identity changes.
It's a complete system.
And it leaves us with one final, deeply provocative thought from the source material for you to mull over. Martell asks, what are you pretending not to know?
Yeah, that's a heavy question.
It really is. Because if AI can seamlessly solve the logistical puzzle of how to get things done, it strips away our absolute favorite excuse.
That we just don't have the time or the organization.
Right. Yeah. What if the real hurdle isn't a lack of systems at all? What if it's just a fear of finally discovering what you're actually capable of once the friction is gone?
Once all your logistical excuses are permanently removed.
That is something to think about today. The tools to build the machine are literally at your fingertips.
Take that first step with AI today, and let's get you off that willpower treadmill.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.